Ladies and gentlemen, this is your PICA Weekly Recap. Here is your host. He is the coach of the Gotham Golbats. He puts the thriller in vanilla, the peanut butter in your fluffernutter, and the fuzzy in your wuzzy. His name is Scheimtime. Wow, I'm just blown away by that intro. It was fabulous. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bruce Buffer. I just wish I had John Cena music playing in the background. Oh man, if only. Maybe one day. One day I'll be cool enough for that. But what's going on, guys? I'm Scheimtime, and this is PICA week number 6. This is the week 6 weekly. Wow, I'm tripping over my own words already. Weekly recap, and I hope you guys are going to enjoy this. I know I'm filling in for Matt this week. Matt had his wisdom teeth out, so I'm going to do my best to fill in those big shoes, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So let's get to it. Anyways, let's go to the first match. The first match today that I have for you is Bob coaching the Philly Shuckles versus the Iowa Focus Energy, coached by the none other than the Belgian one, Nick. And coming into this match, Bob has seemed to be in a nice winning groove. He came off his first loss last week to Dom and the Richmond Rayquazes and was looking to bounce back, while Nick has come off of a huge win over the previously undefeated Matt and the Washington Red Shells. And I felt like Nick was, the first couple weeks of the season, he was good but not great, and all of a sudden, man, something in him just clicked, and his team has had great synergy, and he's been using his Mons to the best of their abilities. And he actually possesses the leading candidate in the MVP race, and that would be, you guessed it, oh wait, no you didn't, it's Blissey. That's right, Blissey is the leading MVP candidate, and Blissey is a beast. Nick uses it as a fantastic special wall, and used it to counter a lot of Bob's strong special attackers, such as Nidoqueen. And, you know, this one was such a good match to watch. Bob ended up coming out with the 1-0 victory after having, had to deal with that pain in the ass that is Blissey. A Sacred Fire, E-Speed, Entei. And one of the things I thought that Nick brought was really cool was he ended up bringing a Chestnut with Block to try and trap the Suicune in and just go to town. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to actually get what he wanted, so it didn't work out so well. Bob had brought Explosion on his Claydol, specifically for the Blissey, I would assume. That's who I at least tried to get it off on. Unfortunately, to no avail, as Nick was either expecting it or just made the right play at the right time and went into his boy Tyreek, otherwise known as Fortress, and he ate that shit up for breakfast. Oh, I don't know if I can say that word. Oh well, I said it anyways. He ate that up for breakfast. Nom nom nom. Because that's what Tyreek does with those physical attacks. But anyways, another thing that I really liked was Bob brought Trick Rotom-Mow, and he showed it off right off the bat to take away the Rindo Berry off of Nick's Seismitoad, which was really smart play. Made sure that any Leaf Storms that he was able to fire off and get onto that Seismitoad were going to hit hard. And then would actually later use it again when the Blissey switched in order to remove Blissey's Chople Berry, so that if by any chance Bob was able to get Blaziken in against Blissey, which he did, he would be able to Sky Uppercut without an issue. But overall, it was an awesome match. Momentum was bouncing back and forth between the two competitors. And this week, though, Bob came out on top to continue his winning ways. And Nick did suffer the loss, but that's not an issue. Nick can bounce back, no problem, with a win next week and forward. So, on to match number 2 that I have for you today, and that would be the one and only Detroit Magnetons versus the Washington Red Shells. Detroit Magnetons coached by Colton, a.k.a. Oghypnotoad, and the Washington Red Shells coached by the normal recap man, Red Matt. But I'm filling in for him this week. I hope you guys don't mind too much. So, first of all, Matt's coming off his first loss of the season to Nick, as I previously said. And so Matt was really, really ready to just kind of turn everything around and be like, you know what? I'm going to get back to winning because that's what I want to do. And Colton has struggled a little bit so far this season. He has that rain team or the pseudo rain team or whatever. And he does have one win so far, but is really looking to get a second one. And so we had the match. I felt like right away, as soon as I saw that Colton had brought Politoed, it actually benefits Matt a little bit because Matt having Mega Scizor and actually has Tornadus Incarnate, really they kind of thrive in the rain due to, Scizor's main weakness being to fire and Tornadus just being able to fire off hurricanes that now have 100% accuracy because it's in the rain. But regardless of that, Colton did bring the rain, just not as you would normally expect. I actually thought it was odd. He didn't bring Drizzle Politoed like he normally would. He actually brought I assume it was Water Absorb Politoed. I don't actually think it came into play during the battle, but I believe it was in fact a Water Absorb Politoed. If it isn't, he can correct me. But I think it was a Water Absorb Politoed to counteract any Scalds from the likes of Greninja. Because Matt seems to really like bringing his Greninja now every week. But he did bring Rain Dance on Politoed, which was curious. So he used Politoed. He switched it in onto a Greninja attack, assuming it might be Scald. Unfortunately for him, it was Dark Pulse. It took away just about 50%. It was going to be a roll the second time. He actually ended up living it and getting off a Rain Dance in order to get his Kingdra in. And come to find out, his Kingdra was actually, I believe it was Choice Scarfed. Which was pretty interesting. But for Matt this week, I think his MVP this week in this match alone was without question Tangrowth. Tangrowth was able to come in and eat up so many attacks from the likes of Raikou or Kingdra or whoever it was. Tangrowth came in and it would fire back actually really strong attacks that ended up doing a number on Colton's team between Earthquake on the Raikou, knockoff on Kingdra, Power Whip, all the above. I think Tangrowth was huge. And Colton did have a bit of an issue too. He had his Cling Clang in. It was at +1 after clicking shift gear. So it was at what? +1 attack, +2 speed. And Matt switched in his Scizor. And Colton actually thought he was going to be able to just basically set up right in Scizor's face. So he clicked it again. But unfortunately for him, Matt was prepared, and Matt brought a super power Mega Scizor and absolutely bodied Cling Clang to the point where it only had 2% health and could be bullet punched to death. So unfortunately, that didn't work out. And then, on top of all that, at the end of the battle, I had something I never thought I'd see, which Matt brought an Outrage Electros. Yeah, no, you heard me. Outrage Electros. No, trust me, I didn't believe it either. I didn't even know it got it until Matt used it. I was stunned, absolutely stunned. But yeah, Matt cleaned up the end of the match with some outrage, almost not quite shenanigansness, but some outrage wonderfulness from his Electros, and ended up getting the 6-0 victory over Detroit Magnetons. Unfortunately for Colton, I think he just didn't have the right coverage for Tangrowth. He was just an absolute problem for him. Whether it was just, I think he might have been better off with Tornadus T in there. At least he could have hit him with like a Hurricane or at least knocked off. Done something to really weaken that Tangrowth. With the Regenerator, though, Tangrowth is just a beast. Man, that thing is vicious. So it's really hard to take it down if you don't have the right prep for it. And I think Matt just had the better matchup overall this week, and he did end up coming away with the 6-0 victory. The next match I have for you guys is the DMR Shadow Absols, coached by none other than Cedric, versus the Denver Dashers, coached by Sir Patrick. No, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, it's not Patrick Star, but he is cool Patrick, so I guess it counts for something, right? But the Denver Dashers came in 4-1, and actually, I believe they were technically in the lead because of differential in their division over the Washington Red Shells. I may be wrong on that. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that was the case. Either way, they're duking it out over there for first place, the Denver Dashers and the Washington Red Shells. And the DMR Shadow Absols were really trying to find a winning groove to get going. They were 2-3, but they wanted to win. They want to be right in the neck of the playoff race. So this battle had a lot riding on it. But I felt like right off the bat, Patrick was able to get a lot of momentum by taking down Ambipom and then Thunderous Eye. And he really never kind of lost control of the momentum. I feel like he was really able to just kind of hold on to it and play at his tempo, play at his pace, and make Cedric or force Cedric, I should say, to try and make some plays to get back into it. And I think, in the back of Patrick's mind, he really wants to keep pace with Matt. And so as soon as he got momentum, he wasn't letting go of it, which is really, really good on his part. I do think Cedric brought some cool ideas, like a light screening electrode to help. Take on those special hits was a good idea. Unfortunately, I just feel like Patrick overall had the much better matchup. And it was really kind of just a one-sided match. I know it was only a 3-0 victory in Patrick's favor, but overall I think Patrick's ability to kind of play at his own tempo and force Cedric to play at his pace really kind of limited what Cedric could do throughout the match. And Patrick kind of, I wouldn't say won it handily, but it seemed like he was never kind of in the losing position in that game. In our next match, we had the Richmond Rayquazas, coached by none other than Game Room Dom himself, at a 4-1 record, versus the Indus Valley Infernapes, coached by the one and only Rohit. Now, coming into this match, Dom had 2 top 10 MVP candidates on his team. He was in a battle for first place in his division with the Philly Shuckles, coached by Bob and Fishy over there. And Dom was really looking to keep the momentum going. He had just beaten Bob last week to really put himself into the race for first place in his division. And he didn't want to let off that pedal. He wanted to keep pace with Bob no matter what. But one of the things that I think a lot of people don't recognize is that Rohit's team is extremely well built. He has fantastic Pokemon all around. Mega Venusaur in the competitive league format is just outstanding. It's so good. And I think Rohit just hasn't been able to really kind of develop the synergy that we all know that his team can really possess. And he was really looking to win this match. And he actually did end up coming out on top with a 3-0 victory. Right off the bat, we see Dom led with his Crocodile and Rohit led with that Mega Venusaur. Dom really wanted to get rocks up to start the match. He did, but at the cost of his Lumberry, because Mega Venusaur actually ended up putting it to sleep with Sleep Powder. It woke up with the Lumberry, fired off an Earthquake, which did just less than half, I believe, to Venusaur, and then went Nunites from Venusaur's Sleep Powder. And unfortunately for Crocodile, he would never wake up from that Nunites. Nuh-uh. So I felt like right off the bat, Rohit was like, all right, I'm going to come out here. I'm going to put pressure on with my best Mon, and then we're just going to kind of see where the match takes us. And that's exactly what he did. You could tell he kind of had a strategy coming in, and he was prepared to really battle against a strong competitor like Dom, which all the credit to Rohit in that, because Dom's team is not easy to deal with. He has a lot of strong attackers. For example, he brought in his Lucario, and I believe Rohit brought in his Golbat, which I believe was probably Eviolite. And Dom had his Lucario fire off a Psychic. Now, I think, Dom's intention was to have that Psychic prepared for Venusaur, knowing that Lucario could counter it in that its Steel typing prevented Venusaur's poison type attacks like Sludge Bomb, and made sure that Giga Drain wasn't very effective. And Lucario was carrying Psychic. I didn't even know Lucario got Psychic, and that may just be my relative inexperience in the Draft League format, or what, but I don't know. I was really stunned as soon as I saw Psychic. I was like, wow, that's really creative. I didn't expect that. And then he actually nasty plotted to make sure he could get rid of that Golbat, so that it couldn't do, any kind of shenanigans or anything like that, which, credit to Dom for that. I didn't see that coming, and I was pretty excited to see it, actually. I was like, oh, this is really cool. But once he revealed it, unfortunately for him, Rohit knew right away, okay, I can't have my Venusaur in against this Lucario, and it's going to body me with Psychic, because Psychic and Flying are really your two best options at taking down a Mega Venusaur because of its thick fat ability. So I thought that was really unique, a really unique bring by Dom. And towards the end of the match, we had, I believe it was Rohit's Alakazam was in. I think it was Focus Sash Magic Guard. And his sash was still intact, and it came in against Dom's Reuniclus, which was now at +1 after Calm Minding. So first turn, Dom wanted to make sure he was at the most amount of health after he finished off the Alakazam in order to take on things like the Mega Venusaur. And so he clicked Recover, and Rohit was able to click Shadow Ball, which would drop Reuniclus's special defense down to the base special defense. But, the Spit F drop is unfortunate. I believe it's a 1 in 10 chance at Spit F drop, so 10%. I mean, it's just like a Burn on Flamethrower or a Parry on Thunderbolt, but, at the same time, it does kind of suck. But then, so Dom, knowing that, clicks Psyshock and brings the Alakazam down, gets Shadow Ball, or actually, I think he clicked Recover. I can't remember. I know he got off a Psyshock. And then Alakazam ended up firing off another Shadow Ball, which was able to lower his special defense again. So 2 turns in a row, Ro got the special defense drop, which I think long-term wasn't totally influential on the outcome of the match. I think Rohit still had the momentum. I think Ro still had the advantage there. I know he was up like 3-2 Mons, but I don't know. It's a tough call. Reuniclus does body that Mega Venusaur, but at the same time, I feel like Ro had options to get out of it if that Reuniclus didn't get the Spit F drops. But it is, I believe, if my math is correct, it's like a 1 in 100 chance that you get back-to-back Spit F drops, which is nuts. So, I mean, that's the game we play. Hacks, RNGesus, the whole deal. But overall, I think it was an awesome, awesome match. Ro ended up bringing in Mega Venusaur after losing Alakazam to finish off the Keldeo and then the Reuniclus. And Ro is going to pick up his second win of the season, bringing him to 2-4 and actually dropping Dom out of first place in his division. And now looking forward and hoping to catch up to the Philly Shuckles. And the next match we have, yes, ladies and gentlemen, the next match we have. This match I'm kind of excited about because if you didn't already know, I am a coach in this league of the Gotham Golbats, and this was my match where I squared off against the one and only Vec and the Transylvania Trevenants. Now, this was a really good match. We were both even at 1-4 coming into the match, so we both really needed wins if we wanted any hope of staying in the playoff race. And our division, luckily for us, is kind of all over the place when it comes to win-losses, so we do still have a chance as long as we start winning. But that's the key, is that you need to start winning. As you can tell, we haven't done that very much. But I'm coming off my first win of the season, a total upset victory over Socrates and the Vespiquen Park Rangers. And so I was looking to keep that winning momentum going, and Vec was looking to get on track and get right into the playoff race. So we started off the match. At one point, I got in Virizion. He brought in his Aromatisse, and I clicked Leaf Blade and did a ton of damage to it. And I was like, oh, this is great. I can get off another hit and basically kill this thing. But right after I get off that Leaf Blade, he clicks Moonblast and crits me, which, if we're talking long-term, didn't, kill me, but it did hurt a little bit because of that crit. I believe it did like 75%, whereas it would have done like 45 to 50. Which does suck because my Virizion was Life Orbed, so it was just less opportunity for me to utilize Virizion and actually attack. Because now I'm only at 14%, and I can only get off 2 more attacks. Which did suck, but, I mean, it's RNGesus. It's going to happen, so I was just like, all right, well, let's keep going. He actually ended up swapping out his Aromatisse into Landorus, getting the Intimidate off. I got off a Leaf Blade that did a decent chunk of damage, but not a ton. And then he had let off the game with Landorus, as I had let off with Empoleon. We'd both gotten rocks up. And seeing rocks, I never expected him to actually be Choice Scarf with rocks. So I was like, all right, worst case scenario, I'm at 4% health. I'll fire off one last Leaf Blade, get some damage off, and get out of here. and we'll see what this Lando wants to do. But lo and behold, Lando outsped me because he was in fact scarfed. So Vec bluffed that unbelievably well. So kudos to him for that. That was very well done. And so freezing went down, and I went, God damn, oh man, that sucks. I totally got fooled. Wow. But then I was actually able to get Mega Altaria in because he had clicked knockoff. So he locked himself in a knockoff. I was like, sweet, I'm getting Mega Altaria in. If I can get up a Cotton Guard, great. If not, I'm going to fire off a free Hyper Voice on something. Like, this is huge. This is great. I bring Mega Altaria in. He doesn't want to lose his Scarf Lando because his Scarf Lando does really good against my team overall. It can hit a lot of things really hard, and it's, you know, his fastest Mon being Scarfed and everything. So he switches out Lando, and it keeps the Intimidator around for him if he needs it. So he switches out Lando and brings in his Aromatisse, which I just clicked Hyper Voice instead of going for Cotton Guard. I just wanted to hit something really hard at that point. I was like, screw this, I just lost Virizion, I need to kill something. Ended up killing Aromatisse, which is huge. And Mega Altaria kind of just picks up where it left off last week. After picking up 3 kills last week, picked up 2 more kills this week by taking down the Aromatisse. But then something really weird happened. He brought in his Zebstrika on my Altaria, and I was very, concerned, because he used a move called Ion Deluge, and I didn't know exactly how that move worked. He had brought his Zebstrika in. I forget exactly how it went down, but he had brought his Zebstrika in. I switched in my Altaria. I had clicked Roost because I wanted to scout out what he was doing, and he clicked Ion Deluge, and that scared the pants off of me because I didn't know exactly what that move did or how it worked in regards to Pixelate. Did it take priority? Did Pixelate take priority? I don't really know. So I wasn't going to risk anything. I just clicked Ice Beam. Come to find out, just so you all know, public service announcement for everybody out there, FYI, Pixelate takes precedence, and it's not affected by Ion Deluge. So Ion Deluge is just for normal type moves, permanent normal type moves, not for moves affected by something like Pixelate or Aerialate or anything like that, because then they're not normal type, they're fairy type or flying type. So there you go. Now you know, just like I know. But at the time, I was petrified, so I clicked Ice Beam. And because I was clicking Ice Beam, I wasn't going to get the kill on this thing, but I was doing serious damage, so it was fine. But the battle continued, and by the way, kudos again to Vec for bringing Ion Deluge, because like I said, I didn't know how it worked, so I was just scared shitless. I didn't know what to do, so I was like not going to risk it. Wasn't going to risk the biscuit there. And so good for him. So as the match went on, we were kind of bouncing back and forth with momentum a little bit, and then I decided to make a risky play out into Empoleon and click Defog. We had rocks on both sides of the field. He had Zebstrika in, and he was probably wondering why the hell are you bringing Empoleon in on Zebstrika? And I needed to click Defog because my Sneasel, which I had in the back, was in fact sashed. And I knew, because he hadn't brought out his Cloyster to rapid spin the rocks away, his Cloyster was in fact sashed. So I knew that I had to make sure that rocks were off the field so that my Sneasel was still had its sash intact, and that I could break the sash on his Cloyster before I got it in there, or anything else in there to kill it for that matter. And I assumed because he was probably sashed, he was Shell Smash. Sashed Shell Smash. That's such a tongue twister, by the way. You should try that. But anyways, the battle continued. I was able to get Victini in on his Blastoise and clicked Thunder to kill it. And then he brought in Cloyster, and this is where stuff got dicey. I ended up clicking Blue Flare with Victini, knowing it was going to do serious damage, and hoping to snag a burn, because it is like Scald. It's a 30% chance for burn. It's not like Flamethrower. It's actually very similar to Lava Plume, just much, much stronger. So I was dedicated to Blue Flare, hoping to get a burn so that I could just kill it and not even have to worry about him getting off a Shell Smash. But he was able to get the Shell Smash off. I only got him down to a sash, which did kind of suck, but overall it's whatever. He got off the Rock Blast, killed my Victini, and then came Sneasel. He had Cloyster left on its sash, and then he had Landorus left in the back with just over 50%. So he left in Cloyster. I brought in Sneasel. I just clicked Fake Out, make sure the Cloyster dies. Doesn't click Ice Shard, gets no damage off. So then I still have my sash. No matter what, I can get 2 hits off on this Lando, and there's no worry in the world. Because he brings in Lando, and Lando, so when Lando intimidated me, Ice Shard was only going to do, I think it was a roll if I killed him. It was like 48 to 59% or something along those lines. So it was a roll, like 50-50, that I would kill him with Ice Shard. But no matter what, he could have clicked any move that he had, would have brought me down to my sash. I would have clicked Ice Shard again, and it would have been game over. And it was game over, so I ended up actually taking the victory 1-0, which was huge for me because now I'm right in the mix for playoffs, and I just need to keep up my winning ways if I want to really make playoffs. But kudos to Vec. He brought so many unique things. Fooled me with the Choice Scarf. Ion Deluge Zebstrika. That was just awesome. He played really, really well. I think it was an awesome match overall. And I'm wicked happy with the results. But, you know, we win some, we lose some. So the next match I have for you guys is actually one of the most anticipated... Actually, no. Correction. Let me rephrase that. This is the most anticipated match of the week. That's right. I'm not, holding anything back here. Without a doubt, I think everybody felt this way. This is the most anticipated match of the week. It was the one and only Berkhamsted Bastiodons, coached by the one and only Gargleflop, versus the Vespiquen Park Rangers, coached by the one and only Socrates. These behemoths of opponents are fantastic competitors in this league. Gargleflop was actually coming in. He was the only undefeated team left at 5-0, and Socrates actually just came off of his second loss of the season, his first of which was to Matt, his second of which was to me, which was my first win of the season, which was awesome for me. But Socrates was really looking to bounce back this week. I think he had kind of felt like he was backed into a corner a little bit. And he really wanted to start winning again because he was not digging the whole losing game and being 0-2 in his last 2 weeks. So I know Socrates is ready to battle, and Socrates came prepared. So coming into this match, I felt like Gargleflop had a huge advantage if he had brought the max physical defense, max HP Sableye with Calm Mind. So have like a Calm Mind set, your Calm Mind, recover. He didn't even need to bring Willow, knowing that the Vespiquen Park Rangers really are much better at special attacking. And Gargleflop's team isn't the best specially defensive team. But if he was able to bring Sableye like that and set up a couple Calm Minds, he basically could have swept. Especially if he had just brought something like, I don't know, Recover, Calm Mind, Dark Pulse, and you name it, the fourth move. I don't really know. Shadow Ball, whatever, didn't matter, because for the most part, Dark Pulse is going to hit everything on his team, on Socrates' team, for at least neutral damage, if not super effective damage, except for the Hydreigon and the Infernape it ended up being up. Everything else would have taken neutral damage or super effective damage, and I feel like Sableye would have been better that way. Personal belief. Gargleflop is 5-0, so I can't really argue with his methods. That's just what I noticed before the match even began. But Gargleflop actually ended up bringing a fully physically offensive Sableye with Fake Out, Knock Off, Foul Play, and Recover, which was really interesting to me. But, I mean, the man is very good at bringing interesting sets. He is a very good battler. And he's impressed me, and I think Socrates has done a fantastic job as well. But Socrates really kind of just put the pressure on right from the get-go and was not letting up off the pedal. He actually had a situation where he had Broadzong in, clicked Earthquake, and Mega Sableye switched in to eat it up. And he actually used Skill Swap with his Bronzong on the Mega Sableye. So he got the Magic Bounce ability and gave Sableye Levitate. So Sableye couldn't be hit by Earthquake anymore, but now it couldn't bounce back anything. So Bronzong then proceeded to click Earthquake, and Gargleflop, knowing that proceeded to click Toxic. I'm sorry, I can't speak. He proceeded to click Toxic, and Gargleflop, knowing that either Toxic or Rocks were coming or something, he needed to switch out of Mega Sableye and go into something else to eat up the Toxic. So Socrates really just kind of kept the pressure on the entire time on Gargleflop. Flop really didn't have super great switch-ins to a lot of Socrates' offensive powerhouses. Tentacruel was a good switch-in for a couple Mons, but I mean, it can only do so much when it's getting bombarded by 6 different Pokemon. It was really his only super especially bulky Mon, and that's really what Socrates brought. I'm pretty sure he ended up bringing something like 4.5 basically special Mons, whereas, you know, Crobat was rocking Brave Bird and Defog and Roost and the like, and then Bronzong had Earthquake. And I think he had Gyro Ball too, I can't remember. But then Gargleflop also tried to get T-Spikes up with his Tentacruel, which would eventually just get defogged away by Socrates' Crobat. He would then try and get Spikes up with a Selgor. Those would get defogged away, I believe, as well. And unfortunately for Gargleflop, he really just could not match the offensive pressure that Socrates put on him. His bulk just wasn't enough in this matchup, and Socrates ended up getting a 3-0 victory. I think Socrates prepped extremely well. You can tell by the way he prepped and the way he played, he was coming out with a fire. Like, he came out fuego. And he was not backing down in the least bit, and he deserved the win. He outplayed Gargleflop this time. I think he just outprepped him. Maybe not, entirely outprepped him, but I think Socrates he played well enough that he deserved that W. And so Socrates has officially made it so that we actually do not have an undefeated team left in the PICA. Gargleflop was the last one at 5-0 and is now 5-1. And we only have one person that hasn't won a match yet, which is the LA Slowkings, which we'll get to their match later. But I feel like knowing that and knowing that everybody's at least lost once, and that, for the most part, everybody's won at least once, I think we can really see that you have to come prepared every week. You have to prep. You have to, really think about each play you make, and, play your absolute best, because any day anyone can win. And I think that's super awesome, and a lot of the times it hasn't been super hacksy, Pokemon, RNGesus, there's going to be hacks. Shit happens. But in the long run, I don't think we've had an overly large amount of matches decided by hacks, which is huge. And I think that's awesome, and I'm so excited for the rest of this season. But before I get on with my excitement for the rest of the season, let's finish up the matches for the week. Our next match. Oh yeah. We have 2 matches left to talk about. This one is the Oneonta Quagsires, coached by the one and only RPatrick, aka Dylan, versus the Sequim Malamars, coached by the one and only HottyRobo, Robotnik. Now, I battled Robotnik earlier the year, and I actually battled Dylan, the wrong guy, later this season, I think actually next week. And Robotnik is an excellent battler. He's had some ups and some downs, started off really hot, lost a couple matches, especially a couple that he got pretty salty about, which was really funny. I'm sorry, Robotnik. But it was really funny how salty you got. But right off the bat, Robotnik, you could tell, came prepped and came ready to go. Brought Volcanion out and immediately got 2 big kills. Like, 2 big kills. Dylan switched in his Clefable on Volcanion's Steam Eruption. Volcanion did like 50% with Steam Eruption almost. Plus he got the burn. And then outsped Clefable on the next turn and KO'd it with Sludge Bomb. Like, bodied it. Absolutely mollywopped that Clefable. So then, knowing that, Steam Eruption was a thing and Sludge Bomb was a thing, Dylan made a good play into Quagsire, but little did he know, Volcanion was packing that HP grass, though. That HP grass coming in hot. And Volcanion one-shotted Quagsire. So Volcanion put in a ton of work right off the bat. But then Dylan makes a really good play into Donphan. And this is where things started to turn a little bit, and Dylan started to grab some of that momentum back after losing 2 of his most important Mons. He forced Robotnik to make a switch, and in the process clicked Rock Polish on Donphan and revealed that it is a fully physically offensive Donphan that was ready to body people. And Donphan came in. I think he got... Actually, I don't think it actually ended up getting a kill. No, it did. I lie. I think it clicked Gunk Shot and killed Ludicolo, to which Robotnik was like, all right, I've had enough of this. Switched in Mega Aggron Mega Aggron ate up an Earthquake and only did like 35%. Mega Aggron is a freaking tank. And then actually roared it out to make sure that Donphan wasn't going to wreck shop any more than it already had. And then actually Robotnik was able to get Diggersby in later, which picked up 2 clutch kills. I'm pretty sure both with Earthquake. And then Espeon would actually come in on the Amoonguss at the end of the match and clean up with Psychic on Amoonguss, I believe, and then Grass Knot to finish off the Donphan. But ended up actually dying to Life Orb Recoil, which sucks for differential purposes, but still gave Robotnik the 2-0 victory. Life Orb right there kind of, sucked for him because now he's only a 2-0 win instead of a 3-0. But, I mean, in the long run, hopefully that differential won't really come back to bite him. I don't think it will. One way or another, it'll work itself out. But overall, Robotnik played really, really well. He came prepped, and that Volcanion was ready to murk people. Oh my god, that thing was vicious. But Dylan did do a good job at trying to get some of that momentum back. Unfortunately for him, it just didn't work out so well. Yeah. Now we're going to go on to the final match of the day. The final match of the day actually happened literally like an hour ago. I got here and I was doing prepping for this recap, and they were battling. There were some computer issues and stuff like that, which Hero ended up getting fixed and figured out. And it was a battle between the Shamrock Snovers, coached by the one and only Duffy, versus and by the way, total side note, whenever I see the name Duffy, I think of Duff and Duff beer from The Simpsons. I don't know why, I just do. So like it or love it, either one is fine. Anyways, Duffy and the Shamrock Snovers faced off against Hero and the LA Slowkings, who are that one team left without a win. And Hero has a good team. He has a really good squad. Unfortunately, he's just made a few misplays and hasn't been able to prep quite as well as he would have liked. But, he's still putting in effort and he's really trying, which is good. It's good to see. So this week he came in and Duffy led off with Darmanitan, I believe. Ended up getting a kill on something. Oh crap! Now I forget and I feel bad. But he ended up getting a kill, to which, after taking a little bit of damage, to which Hero swapped in his Mega Gardevoir and clicked Hyper Voice, which didn't knock it out. So that was kind of a misplay on Hero's part. I don't really know what he was going for there. I was kind of a little confused by that play. I think a few of us were. It was not going to kill. Hyper Voice was resisted. It does do a lot of damage, but it wasn't going to kill a Darmanitan, especially when Darmanitan's at like 70 or 75%. And so Darmanitan ate it up, clicked Flare Blitz, and knocked out Gardevoir. So right off the bat, Hero's playing from behind, and I think Duffy kind of just held on to that lead. He didn't really put a ton of pressure on, but you could tell he was keeping the pressure, keeping the momentum. There was a point where Hero tried to just set up right in Duffy's face, but he forgot that Skarmory gets Whirlwind. So there goes Excadrill's +4, and the match continues. But it ended up being, at the end, it got pretty close, but Duffy played it the right way and ended up getting the, I think it was a 3-0 victory. Actually, no, he got a 2-0 victory. My apologies. I can't count or read or do anything. I'm just illiterate. What else is new? But that wraps up the recap. Let's move on to the MVP race, shall we? Actually, everybody, I lied to you. We're not going to do the MVP race just yet. I'm going to make you wait for it. First, I'm going to talk a little standings for you. We have, let's see here, after week 6 in the Ruby division, we have the Philly Shuckles in first place at 5-1, with the Richmond Rayquazas right behind them at 4-2. The DMR Shadow Absols at 2-4, and pulling up the rear, unfortunately, is the Detroit Magnetons at 1-5. The Philly Shuckles and Richmond Rayquazas have proved that this is going to be a battle all the way to the finish. I think Bob is an exceptional battler, but I also think Dom is very good at this game. He knows what he's doing, ladies and gentlemen. He's pretty damn good. But on to the Sapphire Division. Now, with the Sapphire Division, we have the one and only Washington Red Shells leading the way at a solid 5-1, with the Denver Dashers right behind them. And the Iowa Focus Energy is still in the hunt. I believe they're now 3-3, so they're not too far off. And, you know, as long as they put in some work at the end of the season, could sneak into the playoffs. And lastly, we have the Indus Valley Infernapes picking up a win and bringing them to 2-4, hopefully staying within the race, but it's going to be tough. Now, if we move over to the Sinnoh Conference, we have in the Diamond Division, the first place team is the one and only Berkhamsted Bastiodons. Even coming off their first loss of the season, they retain first place in their division ahead of the Oneonta Quagsires, who are they're just over the Transylvania Trevenants, followed by the only team left without a win so far, and that would be the LA Slowkings. And lastly, in the Sinnoh Division, we have the Pearl Division, or the Sinnoh Conference, we have the Pearl Division, led by none other than the Vespiquen Park Rangers and Mr. Socrates, coming off a huge win over Gargleflop this week. And in second place, we have the Sequim Malamars, followed up by the Shamrock Snovers and the Gotham Golbats, pulling up the rear, but hopefully going to make a push towards the front of that list. Now that's your standings for the week. Let's get to what everybody's been waiting for in the MVPs. Yeah, you like that? I like to sing a little bit. I'm sorry. It's just how I operate sometimes, you know. Now, the MVP race, the number one spot didn't change. Ladies and gentlemen, your number one spot's going to go to the one and only Blissey. That's right, Blissey, the unexpected MVP candidate, is just chilling at the top 2 weeks in a row now. It's sitting at a solid 9-3, having picked up 1 kill and 1 death this week. Blissey's going to be tough to beat. Nick is just using Blissey fantastically. It's just picking up kills left and right, which you'd never expect. Blissey's more of just kind of a wall and a cleric. But it has picked up kills just constantly all week, or all season, I should say. And right behind him, though, actually tied at 9-3, is Mega Scizor of the Washington Red Shells. Oh, and by the way, Blissey is of the Iowa Focus Energy. My apologies. But right there, right behind it is Mega Scizor, also at 9-3 of the Washington Red Shells, who has proven that it can dominate teams if given the opportunity. After this week, picking up just 1 kill. No deaths, though. He was 1-0 this week, moving from 8-3 to 9-3. And then right behind it, another Washington Red Shell, Latias, holding up the third place spot, dropping out a second, but staying right there. Didn't get any kills or deaths this week against the Detroit Magnetons. And then rounding out the other half of our MVP candidates, we have at 4, we have Mega Sableye of the Berkhamsted Bastiodons, picking up another kill, but unfortunately as well another death this week. And then we have at 5 and 6, Suicune and Keldeo. And at 7 and 8, Thunderous Tarian and Porygon Z. And at 9, I finally have the Gotham Golbats as someone in the MVP race in Mega Altaria after 2 huge weeks, which is shocking to me, so I'm not mad about it. And then rounding out the 10 MVP candidates is the one and only Mega Venusaur, coming in at 8 and 4, the same as Mega Altaria. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that about does it for this week's recap of PICA Week 6. I am Scheimtime, coach of the Gotham Golbats, and I hope you enjoyed this wonderful time with me. Have a wonderful day, and I hope you're back for Week 7.